Prologue, the button on Channel 7. People think the meter is the heartbeat. They're wrong. The real heart of a taxi is the little plastic button on the radio that switches you to Channel 7. Dispatch says Channel 7 is for emergencies only. The handbook says, use it when someone pulls a knife, when a fare runs, when you smell gas, when the car ahead flips like an empty can. But night drivers like me, learn fast that Channel 7 isn't just for emergencies. It's where you go when you see something without a name. You press the button with two knuckles like a prayer and wait for the static to answer back with somebody who believes you. I pressed it for the first time 11 years ago. At 2:03 a.m. With a woman in my back seat whose reflection didn't match her face. The second time was for a boy who paid with coins so cold they burned my hand. The third time I pressed and a voice answered from a driver who had been dead 9 months. We all pretend this job is simple: pick up, drop off, don't talk unless they do. But the city at night is a mouth. And taxis are teeth grinding down whatever wanders in, drunk poets, bleeding men, women with rings they're trying to forget. A priest who insisted on sitting up front because Jesus rode beside fishermen, not behind them. I've kept their secrets because the meter doesn't stop for confession. Still, there are nights when the meter doesn't mean anything at all. Nights when the road loops back to places you swore you left behind. Nights when an address on the GPS is a dare. If you're reading this because you're about to start nights, because you've convinced yourself the tips are better and the streets are empty and you're the kind of person who can handle weird, then learn the first rule: keep a plain white button down in your trunk. A spare crucifix or a clean stone or whatever your grandmother blessed for you. And enough cash to refuse a card when it matters. Learn the second: never check your back seat mirror during a tunnel. Learn the third: when Channel 7 crackles, answer like you're calling back a friend from a ledge. What follows are the things that made me press that button and what came through when I did. You can call them stories if it helps you sleep. We call them fares. I still drive. I still press the pedals the way my father taught me, like the car is a shy animal that will buck if you kick it. I still see the same streetlight by the river that blinks twice every 30 seconds as if someone behind it is deciding. I still have the coin the boy gave me. It fogs any glass I set it on. On most nights, the city is only a city, a stack of apartment windows, a wet newspaper stuck to a storm drain, a cabbie with a thermos of cheap coffee and a pack of mints. On some nights, the city wants to be heard. When it does, Channel 7 lights up. And so, seatbelt on, doors locked, meter off for now. Here's the first fare.
Book 1, The Passenger Who Paid in Time. Chapter 1, The Boy at Mile Marker 13. There's a stretch of the outer road I try to avoid when I'm tired. It's an honest road in the daylight, flat, forgettable, a long sigh of asphalt bordered by chain link and warehouses, but it goes strange after midnight. The markers start to feel like prayers that ran out of words. Mile 11 has a burnt patch that never gets repaired. Mile 12 smells like grapes for no reason. Mile 13 eats radio music. You roll over that painted 13 and the station fuzzes, the bass dies, and all you have left is tire noise and the beads on your dashboard rosary knocking together like someone tapping a window. That night, rain stitched thin as hair, wipers tired. The kind of cold that gets under your watch band. I was angling to make one last fare before a coffee break. Dispatch had me hovering near the river, but a ping came through for a pickup on the outer road, and the app tossed me an extra if I responded. Money's money. I swung onto the ramp, watched the city loosen in the rear view, and told myself it would be quick. I hit mile 13 and the radio went quiet the way someone goes quiet when they're about to say something you don't want to hear. He was standing right there past the marker, where the shoulder widens into a gravel shrug. 13, a little short for it. Dark hoodie. Hair wet and combed with his hands so many times it sat in thin ribs. He held one arm like he'd been grabbed there and didn't want me to see the fingerprints. I pulled up, window down 2 inches. You call a car? Kid? He nodded without meeting my eyes. Downtown. The old clock tower. That's not downtown. I said it gently and got the kind of shrug teenagers give adults they think are playing dumb. You got cash? Card? He opened his palm. 6 coins lay there, dull as river stones. I don't take coins for $100 ride, I said, already thinking I'd eat this one and chalk it up to whatever story he needed me to be in. There's an ATM at the next exit. He didn't look at his hand. They're not coins, he said. They're hours. If you drive enough nights, you learn there's a point where it makes less sense to argue than to move. Get in, I said. He sat behind me, behind my right shoulder where I hate passengers to sit. People who sit there want you to know they're watching your hands. He buckled up, which I appreciated. The seat stayed dry under him like he was wrapped in the kind of rain that doesn't wet you, only presses cold into your pockets. You okay? I said. You want heat? It's not for me. It's for the car. I turned the heater up anyway. We rolled. I kept one eye on the speedometer and one on mile 14. The radio stayed dead, as if it had decided music was undignified for this ride. The boy's breath fogged the glass in a slow circle that never quite faded. The clock tower's not downtown, I said again, more to hear my voice than to correct him. It's riverfront, near the old cannery. That's where it used to be, he said. It isn't there now, not since the hands were moved. I don't like when fares talk like that, like time is a curtain they've already peeked behind. But I've been tipped by worse sentences, so I nodded and eased into the middle lane. What's your name? I asked. He told me a name that fit his mouth, a soft one, the kind teachers don't shout on playgrounds. It fell out of my ear on the next turn. Okay, I said, you can call me Len. Len, he repeated like a judge carving a verdict on a table. Look, I said after a minute of quiet. You in trouble? Not if I'm on time. On time for what? His hand touched the window. The fog circle sharpened into a perfect ring, as if he'd pressed a coin into it. For paying. I hadn't pressed channel 7. I thought about it. But there's a curse among night drivers. If you cry wolf on 7, it'll feed you one you can't outrun. So I kept my thumb off the button and my eyes on the thin white lines that stitch our lives together longer than they deserve. Tell me about the hours, I said, half joking, fully not. He counted the coins without looking. 6 to start, he said. 1 for the ride, 1 for the door, 1 for the stairs, 1 for the face, 1 for the apology, 1 for getting back. And if you run out, you don't run out, he said. You just start paying with other people's. I don't keep religious icons dangling from the mirror anymore. Too many stories catch on them like shirts on nails. But I keep a knotted string in the glove box that my mother tied for luck the year my father died. I touched it through the plastic, then took the river exit that would dump us near the cannery. The rain slicked the sign so the letters skated out of their lines. Clock tower used to chime 13 on New Year's, I said, filling space. Superstition. Folks liked the joke. It was never a joke, the boy said. We passed the cannery where the windows are eyelids that haven't chosen a side. Past the slip where fishermen with quiet wives tie up their excuses. Past the old bus depot whose schedule board still clicks to towns that don't exist. And then the road bent left and the tower should have appeared like a finger wedged into the sky. It did, but not where it belonged. It had moved, not like a building moves on a truck. Not like something old being dragged through its last humiliation, but like a confession moves from one mouth to another. It hunched 3 blocks inland, leaning slightly as if listening. The hands on its face were still. No, not still. They were awake but refusing to perform. I parked by a fire hydrant I'd apologize to later. The boy reached forward and set 1 coin in the little tray where people leave gum and loose rings and pieces of themselves. The coin was heavy in a way that made the car's suspension exhale. It was blank on both sides and colder than the window glass. 1 for the ride, he said. Kid, I said, what are we doing here? Paying what we owe, he said, and his voice was mine for a second, the exact grain of it. The weight of a man who has asked a question he already knows the answer to. I should have pressed channel 7 then. I didn't. I followed him. The tower's door was a dark oval, the kind that eats you without showing teeth. The boy pressed the 2nd coin into the seam. It slid away and the door softened open. That's not how doors work, I said, because sometimes you say reasonable things at unreasonable places so the night knows you're not complicit. They work like that here, he said, and stepped inside. Chapter 2, Stairs That Count You. The smell hit first. oil, chalk, old breath. My shoes found stone steps. They were the mean kind of steps, steep, eager to introduce your shin to your teeth. Somewhere above, gears ticked like tongues. "Stay behind me," the boy said, which is the last thing you want to hear in a tower that relocated itself. "Who are we paying?" I asked. He didn't answer. He set the third coin on the first step. It tilted, listened to some rule I didn't know, and rolled up 2 steps like it had decided the gradient was a suggestion. It stopped at step 3 and went still. The boy climbed, and the coin never moved again. On the next landing, he placed another. It rolled and settled on step 6. "You're counting," I said. "The stairs are," he said. "Why?" I asked, and hated how childish I sounded. "So the tower knows how much time we're bringing," he said. "It won't wake unless the hour matches." I heard channel 7 in my head. "Len, you there? What's your 20? A chorus of coffee-thick voices who've seen worse. We'll pretend they haven't, and we'll come anyway. I kept climbing. The steps grew narrow as a tolerance. Fatigue puddled in my knees like bad news. We reached the clock room, a stone throat around a circle of glass and brass. The hands that should have told the hour were pressed together at 12. Not in prayer, but like someone pinched them there. Behind the face, the city smeared itself into something that wasn't streets anymore, but veins. The boy placed the 4th coin flat on the floor. It vapor fogged as if breathing. "One for the face," he said. Then, gentle, almost tender, "I'm sorry I'm late." The second hand twitched. I felt the air tilt as if the room had decided to consider a different truth. The boy took a breath that lasted 2 seconds, and all of 19 years. "We were supposed to meet at the hour," he said to the room. She waited. "I didn't come. I was in a car with friends. We found a wallet. We found 2. We bought beer." She walked home alone. I thought time would forgive me. Time doesn't forgive. It just collects. I should have left. I should have gone back to the cab, written this off as grief kink, as teenage theology. But there was a weight in the room, like the moment before a judge speaks. And I have a problem with thresholds. I always want to see what door they make. The face of the clock leaned toward us. Not physically. The glass didn't warp. The brass didn't groan. But the room's attention buckled against where we stood. And then, through that attention, through the thin barrier that tells you glass is glass and you are not the outside of a clock, someone looked back. She wasn't a face made of light or a ghost taped to memory. She was a girl with a mouth like the road, cracked and unsurrendered. Rain had lacquered her hair to her forehead. Her jacket was the kind you buy out of stubbornness, not warmth. She looked at the boy and did not look at me, which hurt in the way only being correctly ignored hurts. "You're late," she said. It didn't echo. It arrived like a coin in a palm. "I brought ours," he said, and held up the last 2. "One for the apology. One for the way back. You never listened to the bells," she said, and there was no accusation in it, only a weather report. "When the bell rings on the hour, it means the hour isn't yours. It means give it back." "I know," he said, and he didn't sound like a boy then. He sounded like the person you become when your name wears out. She turned. No, the clock turned around her, and the city through the glass shifted to a past layout, streets I remembered from a decade ago. Before development turned warehouses into brunch places, the bus depot's schedule clicked to towns with dirt roads. The cannery smoked fat and honest. Somewhere my cab existed and didn't. "What do you want me to do?" the boy asked. "Count," she said. "Say the hours. Name where you took them from." He swallowed. 1 hour from the night I told you I was sick and I wasn't. 1 from the streetlight I parked under and didn't get out. 1 from the song we said we'd always listen to together, but I played alone until I hated it. 1 from the morning after your birthday. "Stop," she said softly, "because some people remember their hurts so well they don't need you to repeat the list. Who does the last hour belong to?" He looked at me. It wasn't a trick. He simply couldn't find another face to rest the question on. "She doesn't know me," I said, "which has never saved anyone. I'm just the ride." "That's what time is?" the girl said through glass. "Just the ride. The last hour belongs to the driver." The boy placed the 5th coin beside the 4th and then held the 6th like a confession too sharp to set down. "I got in your car," he said, "and I didn't have money. So I took the hour your daughter was going to wake you with a picture she colored. I took the hour your hands would have stopped shaking long enough to eat. I took the hour your father finally visited your dream and sat on the curb with you like he promised. I thought you wouldn't feel it. Drivers don't count hours. They count miles. The coin in his hand wasn't a coin anymore. It had an edge like a word you shouldn't teach a child. My fingers found the knotted string in my pocket and knew it for what it was. Not luck, but a leash to pull me toward what mattered. Give it back, I said. He nodded. I don't want to carry it anymore. The last coin cooled the air when he set it on the brass rim of the clock. The second hand unpinched itself and crawled. The room exhaled. Something turned that had needed turning since before the tower ever decided to move. The boy closed his eyes. The girl's mouth softened like a wound choosing a scar. Go, she said. I'm sorry, he said. And when he said it, the room didn't make him say anything else. We climbed down. The coins on the stairs stayed where they had settled, tiny moons satisfying some orbit. At the door, the boy touched the seam and whispered, "One for the door," as if this was a game he had inventing rights to. The door softened open. The rain outside had changed its direction. It fell up a little, then remembered itself. I expected him to vanish, or to age, or to turn into one of those mistakes you think you can outrun if you don't look in the rear view. He didn't. He got in the back seat and buckled up and looked 19 again. Where now? I asked, and hated how much I meant it. Home, he said. The one that isn't mine anymore. We can find it, I said. Drivers lie like surgeons, because sometimes it helps. Halfway to the ramp, he said, How do you count your hours? Len? I keep some in the glove box and some in the past and some in jokes, I said. And sometimes I keep one for myself and then feel greedy. He smiled the way kids smile at old men who've told them the truth too late to save them any pain. There's a better place to keep them, he said, under the seat. Why? So you don't keep looking. He reached under his own seat and came up with a tiny black notebook. I promise. Hadn't been there when I checked under every seat that afternoon for gum and sins. He slid it between us. For the ride, he said, write down the hours you want to return before someone takes them. I dropped him on a street where the houses grew like decisions, some painted, some not, some missing a porch step you don't know you rely on until it's gone. He paid with a real bill that smelled like a wallet your father used to own. When I looked up from the meter, he was gone. Not vanished, just gone the way kids go when they finally remember how to walk home. Back at mile 13, the radio found a song it liked. Maybe the same one the boy had ruined for himself. I pressed channel 7 with 2 knuckles and said, Anyone copy? Static breathed. Then Tarek, who never sleeps before dawn and never lies about weather, said, Copy. Len, what's your 20? Outer Road, I said. 13. You good? I looked at the notebook under the seat. I'm paid up, I said. For now. 10-4, he said. Watch your 6. I didn't ask why. We know why even when we pretend we don't. The last thing before I turned off the radio, a voice I didn't recognize. Deep, like a river under a bridge you've walked 100 times without hearing it. Len, it said, check your glove box. Then don't drive by the cannery for a week. I didn't press back. Some fares follow you, some you agree to. I opened the glove box at a light. The knotted string my mother tied had untied itself and formed a circle like a fogged coin. Sometimes the meter runs on hours you didn't know you had. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you give them back before anyone charges interest. Chapter 3, The Night Dispatcher and the Dead Man's Laugh. You can end a story there, at a strange mercy. But nights don't end where they should. They carry momentum like bad marriages. I swung by the depot for coffee, the good kind that tastes like a warning. Arlene, the night dispatcher with a voice that could fold laundry, slid me a paper cup and a look. You've got the mile 13 face, she said. What's that? The face that says, I saw something I'm not going to tell you about because it'll either be a lie or a truth I can't keep to myself. Arlene, I said. Did the clock tower ever move? She stirred her own coffee, even though she takes it black. It's a habit she claims keeps her from saying things she shouldn't. Only for people who don't know what time is, she said. You going to file a report? What would I write? She tapped the radio base where channel 7 lives behind glass and a label maker's baffled all caps. Emergency only. You could write, heard the laugh again. That's enough. What laugh? She shrugged toward the window where the city pretended to be harmless by lighting itself up. You'll know it when it arrives. It's the sound a road makes when it proves it never really ended where the map says it did. I took my coffee to the door and looked at my cab like it was a dog that had just learned a new bad trick. I almost didn't get back in. Then a ping came through. A short fare, hospital to a motel, and money is money. And I am still the kind of man who keeps a clean car and an open night. At the hospital, a nurse with a tired bun and the sort of hands that have learned to be both kind and quick guided a fragile woman into my back seat. The woman's hospital bracelet said a name that broke my heart because it was the name of a girl I once loved who was brave enough to leave. It wasn't her, it was an echo. It still made me drive carefully in a way I wish I did for everyone. "Address?" I asked, and the nurse gave it like a prayer and added, "Take your time over the bridge. She likes the lights." We eased onto the span. The river below held the city's reflection like a mother holds a fevering child, firm, whispering nonsense to keep the child from hearing how scared she really is. The fragile woman lifted her hand when the tallest building blinked and said, "There, that one." He used to count the blinks. "Who did?" I asked. "My husband," she said, and the word was a stone she had carried for so long it had stopped hurting and started to warm her hands. "How many?" I asked, because some nights you repeat strangers to themselves until they feel human again. 11, she said, but he always made it 13. He said you should never end a count on an even number. It invites something. The bridge groaned under a truck. The river didn't change. Channel 7 stayed quiet. I wanted it to stay quiet forever. We passed the cannery. I did not look. I did not look because I am sometimes wise. In my mirror, the woman smiled at nothing in a way that told me she had arranged her grief into shapes she could live beside. At the motel she took too long to stand, so I unbuckled and opened her door. The nurse paid, eyes heavy but mouth gentle. "You're kind," she said. "Not a lot of you left." "Plenty," I said, which is a strategic lie. Like telling a child there are more fireworks next year when you know the town council is going to cut the budget. I slid back behind the wheel and the radio crackled. Not the usual static. Not Tarek asking about the rain. A crackle that had a grin in it. Then a laugh. It was the laugh Arlene meant. Not human, not cruel, not joyful. It was a relief. Have you ever heard a rope snap under a weight and felt, for a second, that it was right? That the rope had done its job for too long and deserved an ending? It was like that. Something somewhere let go. The radio laughed the laugh of a relieved knot. "Len," a voice said through it. The voice of a man I had watched a line of taxis follow down an off-ramp 9 months ago to a funeral where we left our beacons off and our engines cooling like we were practicing stillness. "You still dodging the cannery?" "Yeah," I said before I could stop the part of me that talks to the dead as if they pay their share of the fare. "You still giving advice from a place with no roads?" He laughed again, softer. "Plenty of roads," he said, "just no brakes." "Why now?" "You opened a door," he said, and I knew which one he meant and which boy had pressed the seam. "Keep it open, or don't. Either way. The meter's running." "On what?" "On you," he said. The radio went back to pretending it was dumb plastic and wires. I sat there with the engine idling, watching the motel's neon promise vacancy and privacy and a price no one believes. The little black notebook tilted itself under the seat as if something inside wanted air. I pulled it out. The first page had a line, not my handwriting. It said, "Start with the hour you use to keep from crying. Pay that one first." So I wrote 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock a.m., the hour after Ferry's appointment, when I drove around the block twice and told myself I was just avoiding a left turn. I didn't cry. I also didn't go in. The page absorbed it like a towel, taking exactly what it was built to take. Something in my chest felt 1 degree less tight. I put the car in drive. The city unfolded its lies and its truths. The night remembered that it was finite. I pressed Channel 7 and said into it, "Who needs a story?" Arlene answered, "We all do." Tarek added, "You first." And how else could it be? A new fare pinged. The address was a church that has been reconstructed so many times even God can't remember which version he prefers. The note attached said, "Bring exact change." The tip promised more than money. I took it. I always do. Chapter 4, Coins That Fog Glass, long chapter. You start to notice a pattern when the night is in a generous mood. The fares who change you always sit behind your right shoulder. Always buckle up with a little grace, and always leave the smell of rain behind even on dry nights. They pay in ways you can't deposit. They ask questions that fix something you thought only God could fix. Their destinations aren't places so much as conditions. Forgiven, returned, named, undone. This one was a man in a suit that belonged to another decade, crisp but apologetic. He stood under the church awning, hat in hand, staring at the statue in the niche like they had broken up recently and were pretending to be adults about it. When he got in, he placed a single coin in the tray, and the windshield fogged in a perfect circle again. "Exact change," he said. "For what?" I asked. "For the things we say in taxis," he said. "They count. People think they don't. They count toward the final total." "You paying ahead or behind?" "Both," he said, and gave me an address that was more a memory than a location. "Take me to the street where my daughter learned to bike." "I don't have a way to enter that," I said, tapping the GPS like a man tries a locked door twice to be polite. "You do," he said. "Search your own voice. You will know where a father would have run with one hand on a seat and too much fear." He wasn't wrong. I did know. We all do, even if we never ran beside anyone. It's in the blood, the shape of a small victory on a big hill. I drove there by feel, like I drive anywhere that matters. "Why the suit?" I asked after a block of quiet. "Court," he said. "I owe testimony." "You in trouble?" "We're all in trouble," he said without drama. "Some of us make appointments." We reached the hill. I slowed in the middle of the street because the hill demanded awe as toll. He pointed at the curb. "Right there," he said. She fell. She stood. She bled exactly enough. She turned back and I told her, "Don't look at me. Look where you're going." I said it like a man who had practiced on himself. That was the last time I said anything worth keeping. "You're late to court," I said. "Court's after this," he said. "I have to pay the judge with a witness who remembers me the way I want to be remembered." "I'm not your witness," I said. "You are if you write it down," he said, and his voice gentled because he had a talent for gentling voices that did not belong to him. So I wrote 6:30 p.m. That July hill. A father who loved correctly for 30 minutes. The notebook warmed. The meter glowed without moving. The coin in the tray fogged. Chapter 4. Coins that fog glass. Long chapter. You start to notice a pattern when the night is in a generous mood. The fares who change you always sit behind your right shoulder. Always buckle up with a little grace, and always leave the smell of rain behind even on dry nights. They pay in ways you can't deposit. They ask questions that fix something you thought only God could fix. Their destinations aren't places so much as conditions. Forgiven, returned, named, undone. This one was a man in a suit that belonged to another decade, crisp but apologetic. He stood under the church awning, hat in hand, staring at the statue in the niche like they had broken up recently and were pretending to be adults about it. When he got in, he placed a single coin in the tray, and the windshield fogged in a perfect circle again. "Exact change," he said. "For what?" I asked. "For the things we say in taxis," he said. "They count. People think they don't. They count toward the final total." "You paying ahead or behind?" "Both," he said, and gave me an address that was more a memory than a location. "Take me to the street where my daughter learned to bike." "I don't have a way to enter that," I said, tapping the GPS like a man tries a locked door twice to be polite. "You do," he said. "Search your own voice. You will know where a father would have run with one hand on a seat and too much fear." He wasn't wrong. I did know. We all do, even if we never ran beside anyone. It's in the blood, the shape of a small victory on a big hill. I drove there by feel, like I drive anywhere that matters. "Why the suit?" I asked after a block of quiet. "Court," he said. "I owe testimony." "You in trouble?" "We're all in trouble," he said without drama. "Some of us make appointments." We reached the hill. I slowed in the middle of the street because the hill demanded awe as toll. He pointed at the curb. "Right there," he said. She fell. She stood. She bled exactly enough. She turned back and I told her, "Don't look at me. Look where you're going." I said it like a man who had practiced on himself. That was the last time I said anything worth keeping. "You're late to court," I said. "Court's after this," he said. "I have to pay the judge with a witness who remembers me the way I want to be remembered." "I'm not your witness," I said. "You are if you write it down," he said, and his voice gentled because he had a talent for gentling voices that did not belong to him. So I wrote, 6 up to 6:30 p.m., that July hill, a father who loved correctly for 30 minutes. The notebook warmed. The meter glowed without moving. The coin in the tray fogged the glass until the car felt like a bathroom mirror after 2 hot showers and a bad decision. He sighed the way people sigh when they have finished a necessary choreography. Now take me to court, he said. He didn't have to tell me where. I knew. We all know. It's that building with too many steps and a clock that insists on honesty. The same hands that had pinched at midnight. The same room that wrote its rules on our teeth. Exact change, he said again when we pulled up and he stepped out. The fare is this. When you drop someone off where they were once brave, you're allowed to keep 5 minutes they no longer need. Use them. Don't save them. Spend them on your daughter's picture, or your dream, or your coffee. But spend them today. He tapped the roof and left a mark like frost. My hand went to channel 7 without me, the way a hand goes to an ache. Anyone copy? I asked. But what I meant was, anyone else paying in time tonight? A dozen voices answered. All the same voice filtered through late hours. We copy? They said. We always copy. Chapter 5. The girl who sat in the seat no one takes. There's a seat in every cab that stays empty, even when the car is full. Front passenger, eyes level with the road. Map of the city laid out like a patient you might save if you don't blink. Strangers don't take it. Lovers don't. Drunks know better. You sit there only if you believe you belong to the night as much as I do. She opened the door without asking and took that seat. Yellow raincoat, hood down, hair braided with a ribbon the blue of gas flame. She tracked the wipers sweep with her eyes like she was measuring their patience. Meter off, she said, buckling up. Channel 7 on. I pressed the plastic. The radio didn't speak, but the cab felt listened to. Address? I asked. Just go, she said. The city will choose. Some people say that like a dare. She said it like a truce. I eased onto the boulevard and let the lights bead into a necklace we might not deserve. You're new, I tried. I'd remember you. You did, she said. You will. Okay, I said, because I've learned to let tenses be wrong until they make sense. She didn't smell like rain the way the others do. She smelled like the drawer where mothers keep the important papers. Births, immunizations, the recipe for a soup that fixes almost nothing, but gives you a job while you grieve. Take the long way to the river, she said, and her hand hovered near the dash, not touching anything, as if her fingers were reluctant to interrupt what kept us alive. Long way costs more, I said. Exact change, she said softly, and the windshield fogged in a tiny heart, ridiculous and precise. We drove past a mural I'd never noticed. A boy on a bike, no face, only knees and elbows and speed. Past a laundromat with 3 women laughing like they'd just remembered each other's maiden names. Past the diner where I once swore I'd quit nights. The city did choose. It always does when you let it. What seat were you supposed to take? I asked. She tilted her head toward the back seat, behind my right shoulder. That one, she said. But if I sit there, you'll look at me in the mirror. And if you look at me in the mirror, you'll miss your exit. What exit? The one that keeps you from driving by the cannery, she said. I didn't answer. She reached into the pouch on her raincoat and pulled out a stack of Polaroids, rubber-banded and bruised. The top photo showed the cab's interior from the back seat, empty. The second showed the same interior, except there were coins on the tray fogging the glass in 4 circles. The third showed the dashboard with the little black notebook sitting where the rosary beads used to go. Where did you get these? I asked, and hated how breathless I sounded. From the part of you that wants proof, she said. We're not built for proof, Len. We're built for witness. She flicked on the cab light without touching the switch. The bulb obeyed like a good dog. The photos weren't staged. The fourth one showed me asleep in the driver's seat, mouth open in a way my father would have teased me for. The fifth showed a girl with a mouth like a road, cracked, unsurrendered, sitting calmly behind me, watching my hands. She was the clock face girl. The glass between worlds had failed to refuse her for a moment. Why are you here? I asked. To teach you where to put the hours you hate, she said. Not under the seat, not in the glove box, not in jokes. Here. She touched the space between the meter and my hand, a strip of plastic with no use beyond separating one worry from another. Right here. Keep a bad hour where you can see it and don't mistake it for a good one. The river arrived, not ahead but below us, a rumor with weight. The bridge lifted its shoulders. She said, "Left lane," and I obeyed because she had the voice you obey when the soup is almost ready and your name has been called. Halfway across, Channel 7 cracked. Not words, not voices, a pulse, steady as a courtroom clock. She exhaled like she had been waiting to be forgiven for breathing. "There," she said. "That's for me." "What is it?" I asked. "The count," she said. "They moved the hands back and someone had to sit here to see if you'd notice." "Notice what?" "That the road is kinder when you put fear beside you instead of behind you." She smiled. "Small and dangerous. Behind you it gets teeth." We came off the bridge into a neighborhood that exists only after midnight. Each porch light a lighthouse. Each cracked sidewalk a prescription you promised to fill tomorrow. She pointed. I parked. She turned the meter off with a look. "Pay me with a destination," I said, because I needed a rule to make this real. "Okay," she said. "Take me to where you kept the picture she drew for you. The one you pretended you didn't see because you were too tired to praise it right." The car felt smaller. The steering wheel found a notch it hadn't used in years. I put us in gear. I drove 3 blocks, 2 turns, 1 apology. The building leaned the way buildings lean when they learn a secret about their tenants. I stopped under a window that always forgets to close itself. "Go on," she said, chin at the glove box. I opened it. The knotted string my mother had tied had circled itself around a folded paper. Crayon. Uncertain sun. A shape that might be me. 3 wild lines for a river, 7 little squares in the corner. "How did," I began. "You kept it," she said. "Even when you pretended you didn't. That counts. You get that hour back." "I don't deserve it," I said. She shrugged. "Deserving is a daytime word. Nights have different math." She unlaced the ribbon from her braid and wound it around the picture, tender as gauze. "When Channel 7 pulses, answer. When the road laughs, listen. When the cannery calls, don't. That's all for now." "Will I see you again?" I asked. "You already did," she said. "You will." She stepped out into the rain that wasn't falling yet and closed the door carefully, like it was a sleeping child. When I looked at the passenger seat, it held a small wet circle the size of a coin. I pressed 7. "Anybody copy?" "Arlene, we hear the pulse." "Tarek, it's counting down." "Down to what?" I asked. A new voice, soft as static. "Mile 11. The burned patch." The mouth. Chapter 6. The GPS that drew a circle. You don't argue with the countdown. You check your fuel. You think of who you'd call if you were the kind of person who calls. You make the sign of whatever you trust. I turned the GPS on for once, not for directions but for company. The screen blinked, searched, refused the grid like a teenager refuses curfew, then settled on a fat blue circle that enclosed the river bend, the cannery, the bus depot, the clock tower, and, if I was honest, most of the parts of me I prefer to handle one at a time. "Rerouting," it said, cheerful as a liar. "I didn't ask," I told it. "Rerouting," it said again, and the circle pulsed. I eased toward the outer road. The city thinned until buildings were ideas someone had in the 1970s and never completed. The radio pulsed with 7. The circle on the GPS tightened like a belt after debt. At mile 12, the air went sweet with grapes. It always does. At mile 13, the music died and the beads knocked like teeth. The blue circle shrank to a coin. "Don't stop," Arlene said in my ear. "I won't," I lied. The road ahead glowed the way metal glows before it admits it is hot. Mile 11. The burned patch. The place where the asphalt failed once and keeps failing in memory of its failure. Channel 7 came alive. No words, just engines breathing in unison from every cab I've ever counted on. A convoy without a plan. Someone honked twice. The signal we use when we're backing each other into tight alleys or out of cops' impatience. I saw them in my mirror first. 3 yellow dominoes. A black sedan Tarek uses to pretend he's a detective. Nora's battered minivan she swears she'll replace the day the city apologizes. So, never. Their lights weren't on. The road lit them anyway. "Form up," Arlene said. 2 by 2. No one touches 11. We passed through it like a story that doesn't love us. We made a lane where there wasn't one. We took the shoulder. We pulled the night wider until it embarrassed itself. Mile 11 showed us its blackened tongue. The GPS circle tightened to the size of a pupil. "Hold speed," Tarek said. 52. We held. The road hummed. A laugh came through the speaker, relieved not, blessing without words. And then the road did what nobody wanted. It opened. Not a sinkhole. Those you can photograph for the paper. This was a remembering. The asphalt recalled its failure and performed it again. The burned patch softened like a bruise under a shower. Beneath it wasn't dirt. Beneath it was water. The river had been everywhere the whole time. "Eyes up," Nora said, too calm. "Don't let it see you looking. People think roads are blind. They aren't. They notice attention the way wild animals do. They perform for it if you stare." We didn't stare. We held 52. We made ourselves background music. The patched hole widened like a yawn a god didn't cover in time. "Now," Arlene said, and I don't know what she meant by now, accelerate or pray or inventory your errors. But I pressed the pedal like the car was a shy animal, and I was asking without insisting. The cab skimmed the edge. The left tires met old heat. The right tires argued for survival and won. Something rose from the water below the asphalt. Not a hand. Hands are for people. This was a suggestion of shape, a rumor that there had once been fingers. It reached for my undercarriage like a debt collector without jurisdiction. A coin rolled from the tray and struck my knuckles. Cold. I said thank you to no one, and to everyone, and to the boy who had given me an hour back that I hadn't yet spent. We crossed. The minivan crossed. Tarek's sedan crossed with a clatter like laughter. The last cab, Dimitri's. He drives like grief is a skill. Hit the edge wrong and bobbled. For a second, the road opened under him like hospitality. His front wheel dipped. The water took his hubcap the way the ocean takes rings. His engine coughed. "Don't stop," he said, and the calm in his voice taught me something about love. And he was right. We didn't stop. We made a pocket of air with our speed, a pressure that bullied the road into acting solid for one more second. Dimitri's cab rose, unhappy but convinced. He came level. We exhaled in a round, a choir that didn't know it was singing. The hole closed like a secret. The GPS circle expanded, then burst, then reset to a normal map that had the courtesy to lie to us politely again. "Roll call," Arlene said. We answered, present, 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 like grade school, like court. "Who called it?" I asked when we were a mile clear, and the road remembered it was only a strip of oil and promises. A pause. Then that deep voice again. The one from the radio. The dead man's laugh slung into syllables. "Len did," it said, 3 hours ago when he opened the tower door. "Shut up," I said, not unkindly. "Can't," he said. "No brakes here." We pulled into the old bus depot and parked crooked, a habit we reserve for nights when we've seen something that could change us if we let it. Arlene came out with a thermos the size of a baptism. We drank, we lied about speeds, we didn't mention fear by name in case it got ideas. "What did we stop?" Nora asked. "Nothing," Arlene said. "That's the point. We didn't stop anything. We passed through a thing that wanted to be bigger. That's all nights ask of us most days." The radio was quiet. The notebook under my seat warmed my ankle like a hand. I wrote 2:10, 2:15 a.m. The minute I didn't look at the hole, and the minute the road decided to be a road for us anyway. Paid to the account of Dimitri's hubcap. When I looked up, the girl in the yellow raincoat was across the depot, sitting on a bench under a schedule board that clicked to towns with dirt roads. She didn't wave. She didn't need to. She tapped her own wrist where a watch might live. Countdown. Still running. "Book why done?" Tarek asked, like my life was a thing with chapters and he'd read enough to know my pacing. "Almost," I said. "One page left." Chapter 7. The page we owe. There's always one more fare. This is the job's only honest promise. Mine came as a soft ping with no address. The note field said, "Same place as before, same time as then. Bring exact change." "The tower?" Nora guessed. "Or the hill," Dimitri said. "The seat," I said, surprising myself. I drove without telling them where, because some debts need a quiet approach. The city arranged itself. The bridge leaned in. I took the left that did not love me, and the right that forgave me, and the block, whose streetlight blinks twice every 30 seconds as if someone behind it is deciding. The curb by the hill. The place where the father had run with one hand on a seat and too much fear. A girl stood there now. Another girl. Older than that day, younger than today should have let her be. She held a bike by its throat, the chain off, the front wheel loose like a bad tooth. "You hailed?" I asked out the window. She nodded and looked at my hands the way kids do when they're inventorying who can be trusted with tools. "Where to?" "Not far," she said. "Just need someone to ride beside me so I don't look back." "I can do that," I said. "I've been practicing." She smiled, a mouth twist that made me want to find whoever had taught her to make her face small. "You charge extra for not talking?" "Exact change," I said, and the windshield fogged a circle. We moved, not fast, not at all fast. Her pedal caught twice and her knee kissed pavement once, and she exhaled the syllable that keeps people alive, again. I rode the cab beside her like a bad shepherd. I put the hazard lights on as if fear respects orange. At the top of the hill, where triumph meets oxygen debt, she stopped and pinched the bridge of her nose the way adults do when children ask them to cry. "My mom's late," she said, unprompted. "She's always late. Not her fault. It's like time forgot to call her name." I thought if I got up the hill without looking back, time might notice me instead. "Did it?" I asked. "Maybe," she said. I felt something let go, like a knot. The laugh came through the speaker again, soft, almost embarrassed to be heard. "What do I owe?" she asked. "A destination," I said. "Were you keeping the picture you drew for the person who's too tired to praise it, right?" She pointed at her backpack. "It's dumb," she said. "It's the only currency," I said, and meant it. She dug out a page. Crayon. Uncertain sun. A shape that might be the two of them. A river that knew more than it should. In the corner, 7 squares. "Why the squares?" I asked. "So I know how many times to try again," she said. 7 is enough. After that, it's tomorrow. "Keep it," I said. "You'll need it." She did. She tipped me with a plastic ring that would tarnish if it ever admitted it was metal. She put it on my finger herself, solemn as oath. "For the ride," she said. The meter clicked to numbers I don't charge anyone. The night loomed and loosened like a belt. Channel 7 spoke as I pulled away. Not a dispatcher. All of them. The choir again. "Paid in full," they said. Each of them meaning someone different. Each of them right. The clock tower didn't move that night. The cannery didn't call my name. The burned patch at mile 11 remembered it had a job and did it. I parked under the window that forgets to close itself. The picture in the glove box lay wrapped in blue ribbon, patient as a tide. I put the plastic ring beside it. I placed 1 hour on the dash where the girl had told me to keep the bad ones, not to mistake it for a good one. I wrote in the notebook, last page for the night. Book 1, closed at 3:33 a.m., exactly when the city decides who gets one more chance. I pressed channel 7 one more time. 2-knuckle prayer. "Anyone need a story?" Arlene, always. Tarek, book 2? "Yeah," I said, and the road purred like it wanted to be part of it. Book 2. The radio breathed. The laugh relaxed. Somewhere a bell rang 13 because superstition isn't a joke, it's a handrail. I turned the meter back on. I took the next fare. Book 2. The fare that never sat down. Chapter 1. Dispatch after midnight. Dispatch went quiet after the mile 11 run. Too quiet. That kind of silence is expensive, like someone's feeding coins into a jukebox you can't hear. Arlene didn't answer calls for 20 minutes, which is unheard of. A dispatcher not talking is like a priest not breathing. When she finally came back on, her voice was raw. "Drivers, copy?" We all did, one by one, the roll call that feels like taking attendance in a class where the teacher has already buried 3 students. She said, "One of you picked up a fare that didn't exist." The line cracked. No one admitted it. That's the problem with phantom fares. They never belong to you until they're already riding shotgun in your chest. "Check your meters," she said. "See which one's still running without a passenger." I looked down. Mine blinked 0013. I hadn't reset it. I hadn't touched it. 13 minutes into a fare I hadn't started. And then the back door lock clicked. No weight hit the seat. No smell of rain. Just the sense you get when a house you thought was empty sighs behind you. "Len," Arlene whispered, not to the channel but directly into my ear somehow. "Don't look in the mirror." So I didn't. Chapter 2. The voice beside the glass. You ever feel your name being pronounced by lips that aren't in the room? That's what came next. A breath, soft as fog, saying, "Driver." My throat tightened. "Where to?" I asked, because words are weapons in taxis. Polite, ordinary ones can cut the deepest. "The last place you stopped," the voice said. Images jumped me. The hill, the bike, the girl with 7 boxes on her drawing. My chest hurt like an unpaid bill. Not possible, I said. Everything is possible if it's already been drawn. The voice said, drive. So I did, against Arlene's warning. Against every instinct my father had beaten into my knuckles when he taught me how to steer. Never follow a fare that doesn't weigh the seat. Every turn was correct before I made it. The GPS stayed black, but the car leaned as if it already knew where gravity had purchased land. We reached the hill, empty. No girl, no bike, no ring. Just the wind arranging leaves into circles. Stop, the voice said. I stopped. Open the door. I didn't want to, but the lock snapped on its own. The door sighed open. The meter froze on 0033. And then something I'll never forget. The seatbelt buckled itself. The car sagged. Not a lot, just enough for me to know the ride had begun. Chapter 3. The passenger without a reflection. We rolled downhill. The lamps flickered in a rhythm that matched a heartbeat I didn't want to measure. The mirror above me blurred, like fogged glass. What do I call you? I asked. Call me the fare you forgot, the voice said. The one you drove past. The one you told yourself was someone else's problem. Call me debt. I gripped the wheel so tight the leather cracked. I can't pay you, I said. You don't, it said. You drive, until I get where I'm going. And where's that? The seatbelt twitched like laughter. You'll know when the road stops lying. The radio fizzed. Channel 7 came alive. Not with Arlene, not with Tarek, not with Nora. With every dead driver we've ever lost. A choir of men and women calling routes they hadn't driven in years. Len, one of them said, the one whose laugh I'd learned to fear and need. Keep both hands steady. You're carrying what we couldn't. The fare beside me whispered, don't miss the turn. Not this time. Chapter 4. Paying with your reflection. You don't look into a mirror when a passenger without weight buckles in. That's the first rule I made up on the spot and decided was ancient. Still, my eyes kept dragging toward the rear view like tide to a bad moon. Don't, the fare said, voice beside the glass. Not yet. Then tell me what you are. I'm the hour you tried to save by pretending it was free. Free? Drivers think silence is free. Refusals, detours, looking straight ahead when someone waves you down in the rain because your shift just ended. The seatbelt tugged itself tighter. Hours accrue. Reflection is how you pay. I took the long way off the hill, because the short way passed the cannery, and I was not a brave man, I was a working one. The radio slept with one eye open. The meter stayed stuck at 0033 as if time had pulled its own emergency brake. Where are we going? I asked again. To a glass that will not forgive you. The voice softened. It won't punish you either. It only counts. We reached the river. Not the big main bridge, but the pedestrian one they light pretty for couples who believe in second chances. I parked with two wheels on the curb because the sign said don't, and tonight I was built for small rebellions. Out, the fare said. The back door clicked. I got out alone. The air held that cold that isn't a temperature so much as a memory of being left. Up, the fare said, and we climbed the narrow stairs to the overlook where the city performs reflection as a party trick. The glass wasn't a mirror exactly. It was the river, still as a lie that's practiced, lit by buildings that think they're gods. But when I leaned over the rail, I saw more than my face. I saw the cab. I saw the back seat, empty, seatbelt buckled by no one. And in the front passenger, in the seat people never take, a figure in a yellow raincoat, head turned toward me like we were telling a secret across a classroom. Look down, the fare said. In the black under the bridge decks, the long panes of the river's cheap mirror deepened, clarified, bent. The glass that would not forgive me composed itself, and my reflection began to itemize. It showed every pass-by I'd justified. It showed a man with a split lip waving me down outside the boxing gym at 2 a.m. I'd told myself he'd bleed on the seat. It showed the November I pretended I didn't see the woman in the parka with her suitcase because I'd already pointed the hood toward home. It showed my daughter's picture folded under a newspaper because I was embarrassed to cry in daylight. Say what you owe, the fare said. I owe eyes, I said. I owe 3 minutes at a curb. I owe directions I didn't want to take because pride thinks it knows a faster route. I owe a thank you I put off until the person stopped deserving it. Pay with reflection, the fare said. Name what you cannot fix. Do not confess account. I breathed. The river brightened in little gulps. Coins fogged and cleared on the inside of my windshield 3 stories below, like someone counting without hands. I owe the man with the split lip, I said. I owe him a ride I can't unmiss. I owe him not looking away when the blood made me think of my father's last day. I owe the woman in the parka a trunk for her suitcase and a "you're safe" said like a fact. I owe my girl 10 loud praises and a quiet one. The river didn't move. It accepted. It recorded. It did what glass does when it's tired of being dramatic. It told the truth flat. Good, the fare said. Now look. I finally let myself check the mirror in the cab below. The back seat was still empty. The front passenger seat held the yellow raincoat girl. Ribbon-off hair like a small weather. She lifted a hand. I lifted mine. The reflections matched. That's how you pay, the fare said. When the city sees you seeing yourself, it credits the account. The meter in the car ticked once to 34. Back, the fare said. On the way down, someone else was coming up. Arlene. No headset, no dispatch console, no cardigan she wears when the AC acts like winter. Just Arlene in a men's peacoat 10 years out of style and a look like she'd just crucified a rumor. Don't look so shocked, she said when we met on the stair. Dispatch walks sometimes. You okay? Not for years, she said cheerfully. We have an hour. Channel 7's going to stay open longer than it should. Don't waste it. Behind her, 3 other drivers were climbing. Nora with her shoulders squared against regret. Dmitri with a hubcap under his arm like a shield. Tarek in a suit jacket over a band tee that insisted on naming a city he's never been to. We were going to have to look into our own water. Nobody liked it. Everyone would do it. Arlene put a hand to my cheek. You've got a fare, she said without judgment, like a midwife noting a contraction. Keep it close. It's fragile. She passed me, up into the place where glass makes liars of us and then invites us to be better. Where now? I asked the empty seat. Court, the fare said. The one with the clock you unpinched. Chapter 5. All cabs, same second. We convoyed without meaning to. You can tell when a city is about to test you. The lights sink. Pedestrians all check their phones at the same instant like a school of fish flips direction. The walk signs stutter in agreement. The towers blink in chorus 13 times as if someone behind them is deciding. Channel 7 chirped, then stayed open, a door propped with a brick. Drivers, Arlene said from somewhere above the bridge, her voice steadier than mine would ever be. We've got a same-second run. Courthouse, East Steps, all cabs top of the minute, no horns, seatbelts on, mirrors off. Mirrors off? Dmitri asked. Hang a receipt over it if you must, she said. No reflections till we're through. We assembled on the avenues like blood-finding vessels after a scare. People think taxis scatter, but we flock when the math requires it. 8 of us fanned like a yellow wing across the grid, engines keeping time. The timer in my dash turned from seconds to a feeling. The meter still read 034, an insult I let it get away with. 10, Tarek counted. 9. We slid into the block as one body. The courthouse clock face watched us arrive with the expression of a parent who has decided to forgive a child and hopes they will accept it without making a scene. 3, Nora said. 2, Arlene said from the bridge. 1, the dead man said from the static. We braked on the east steps at the same second. The doors opened. People exited that building like verdicts unspoiled. Clerks, a janitor with a saint's patience. A man whose tie said I made a mistake and intend to survive it. A woman who carried a folder like a shield. And then they came, the ones we were there for. The ones who had been waiting to be counted. Not ghosts, not us, not yet, people halfway to decision. People who needed a ride to the place they could be brave. They got in, one to a cab, no words. Coins that were not coins hit trays and fogged glass in polite circles. My back door shut itself. The invisible seatbelt pulled once, snug. The fare was with me. Drive, Arlene said softly. No questions. If you hit mile 11, you went the wrong way. Where to? I whispered. Where you didn't go last time, the fare said. The grid parted. We threaded. As we rounded the clock tower, back in its proper place for now, a shadow crossed the face from inside, like someone had decided to walk in front of the hands. Superstition isn't a joke. It's a handrail when the stairs go mean. Left, the fare said. I left. Chapter 6, The Dispatcher's Hidden Fare. You never imagine the dispatcher sits in a back seat somewhere. You picture her above everything, puppeteering the city with a pencil and a throat lozenge. But Arlene had a fare like anyone who stays up late listening to other people's emergencies. We found her outside the depot, the old bus station that thinks it remembers towns that weren't. She wasn't alone. The girl in the yellow raincoat sat on the bench beside her, ribbon in her lap like an unraveled sermon. "You kept the channel open," Arlene said. "Good. I need a ride." "To where?" "Where I forgot to be human." She said it like she was ordering coffee. That's Arlene's talent. She puts grief in paper cups so the rest of us can hold it. "In," I said. She sat front passenger. The raincoat girl slid into the back behind me, the one seat that guarantees I will never feel unwatched. The invisible fare settled beside the glass where reflections come to be judged. "Tell me when to turn," I said. "Nora will," Arlene answered, and the radio obliged. "Right on Willow, left on Pratt. Don't take Canal. It has opinions tonight." We cut through neighborhoods that appear only for apologies. We stopped at a cinder block building with no sign and too many cameras. "Here?" I asked. Arlene nodded, eyes tired but not broken. "Years ago," she said. "A driver called on 7. Nobody else picked up. I heard him, but the board lit up like a slot machine and She stopped. I triaged badly. He waited 30 seconds too long. The patch at mile 11 learned a new trick that night. Silence is a city's native language. We spoke it for a few beats. "Go," the raincoat girl said from behind me. "I'll keep count." Arlene got out. She didn't go far. She touched the wall beside the door like it could feel ashamed. She took something from her pocket, a key worn smooth by regret, the kind you keep even when you throw away the lock. She slid it into nothing, turned it, removed it. The cameras looked away, embarrassed for once. When she got back in, her hands were empty. Her voice wasn't. "I owe him 30 seconds, she said. "I can't return them, but I can pay forward." "How?" I asked. She put her hand over mine on the shifter. It was the first time I'd ever been touched by her skin. "By keeping 7 open longer than the handbook says," she said. "By believing voices that sound like static. By telling drivers to trust their bad feelings." Behind us, the raincoat girl tied the blue ribbon into a bow around my daughter's drawing I didn't remember handing her. "By making him spend the hours, not collect them," she added. The meter turned to 036. Dispatchers are braver than drivers. They sit still. We flee for a living. "Last stop," the fare said. "The city wants in." Chapter 7. When the city gets in. You ever hear an engine settle like it just remembered its real name? Mine did as I pulled from the curb. The lane emptied against traffic laws I will never trust again. The buildings leaned the way audiences do when a storyteller hits the part that decides if the night was worth staying up for. "Where?" I asked no one and everyone. "The bus depot," the city said through every bolt in the chassis. "Where else?" "We have to learn to leave." I parked crooked, like confession. Doors opened on their own. The raincoat girl stayed seated. Arlene stayed too. Fingers tapping a rhythm I recognized from late nights waiting for my father to come home sober enough to roll the car into the driveway without waking the block. The empty seat filled, not with weight, but with attention. The cab smelled like chalk dust and wet paper and something metallic, like a coin in a mouth. The dash lights dimmed, not to conserve, but to listen better. And then the city spoke from the vents, the fabric, the seams. "I've been counting wrong," it said. It sounded like 1,000 elevators deciding to agree. I counted cars. I should have counted hours. I counted buildings. I should have counted attempts. No one teaches you how to answer your city when it repents. I said the only thing I know. "Do you want a ride?" "Yes," it said. "1 loop. Exact change." "Where to?" "To where I first failed you. To the cannery." The word put iron in the air. The seatbelt retracted like a cat's claw. Arlene's hand tightened. The raincoat girl nodded once, like ceremony. "We don't go there," I said. "We do now," the city said. "We take the road that won't admit it's a river. We drive over the patch that wants to be a mouth. We pass the tower that moved, and we do not ask it to save us. We go to the cannery because I put something down there once and forgot to pick it up." "Pick what up?" I asked, the way a man asks a confession to hurry. "Your names," it said simply. "The ones you use when you are not driving." I put us in gear. The meter read 0036 and I let it lie. We moved as one organism. Engine, dispatch, girl, ghost, city. Channel 7 hummed. Every driver still awake came onto the frequency without talking. We were not a convoy, we were a nerve. Mile 13 killed the music. Mile 12 went sweet with grapes. The tower watched and refused to make a show of it. The burned patch at 11 tightened like a bad opinion, and then, maybe because Arlene had paid 30 seconds forward, maybe because the river had decided to pretend, it stayed solid long enough for all of us to cross an idea. The cannery rose out of the wet like an apology. Windows like eyelids, neither open nor shut. The door, a dark oval that eats without showing teeth. "Stop," the city said. I stopped. "No mirrors," Arlene whispered. "No prayers," the fair said. "Only names," the raincoat girl added. We went in. It didn't smell like rot. It smelled like citrus and paper and heat, the way a place smells when it's been making something it hopes someone will want. The floor held the marks of men who dragged machines across it so long they began to dream in skids. We followed not a hallway but a seam in the air to a room that hadn't been on any plan. On a table, tags, sloppy little cardboard name tags, hundreds, thousands punched with string. Each one had a driver's name written in the hand of a child who wants to be perfect for a parent who will not notice. Some names I knew. Most I didn't. Mine wasn't there. "Where are they from?" I asked. "From all the times you were about to introduce yourself and chose not to," the city said. Not unkind. "From all the nights you decided being anonymous was safer." Arlene picked up one that said Dimitri in a careful hand, and one that said Nora in cursive chaos. She handed me a tag so blank it was full. "Write it," she said. My hand didn't shake because my hands had nothing left to prove to me. I wrote Len in letters that would embarrass my second-grade teacher and please my daughter. I hung it on a hook at the door like this was a coat check for people who had decided to be real. "Paid," the city said quietly. "Now take me home." We stepped back into the night. The cannery did not burn. It did not follow. It did not vanish. It did what buildings should do when nobody needs them to be metaphors. It stayed where it was and kept its weather to itself. Back in the cab, the meter rolled on its own from 0036 to 0037, and then to zeros like a slot machine that for once paid out relief. The fare without weight unbuckled. The door locks kissed. The radio sighed. "Book 2? Tarek asked over 7, his voice thin as a man who has laughed too hard for too long. "Closed," Arlene said. "Not yet," the raincoat girl corrected softly. "There's an epilogue you can only hear if you sleep." "Drivers don't sleep," Dimitri muttered. "Try," she said and smiled at me like a secret deciding to be kind. I parked under the window that forgets to close. The ribbon held the picture together as if it had always been meant to. I put the little black notebook on the dash where bad hours live and wrote a final line for the night. Book 2, paid with reflection, convoy, 30 seconds, names, change given, 1 loop without fear. Channel 7 clicked off. In the silence that followed, the city did something I'll never get used to, even if I beg it to happen again. It thanked us. And then the meter, bored and honest, waited for the next fare. Book 3, when the bells refuse silence. Chapter 1, the 13th chime at 3:33. It started with the bells. Every clock tower in the city, old, new, broken, renovated. Even the digital ones that shouldn't have had sound rang 13 times. Not midnight, not noon, 3:33 a.m. I was parked under the window that forgets to close itself, notebook on the dash, eyes refusing sleep. The first chime rattled the glass. By the 5th, the radio had come alive without me pressing 7. By the 9th, the whole block trembled as if a subway was tunneling under its bones. By the 13th, the air smelled like coins rubbed warm in a fist. And then silence, the kind that makes you forget you ever believed in sound. The radio whispered, "Drivers, roll." It's not waiting this time. No name, no dispatcher, just the city's voice in our lungs. I turned the key. The cab woke like it had been dreaming the same bells. Chapter 2, Convoy of the Uncounted. We gathered without calls. Every cab still alive on the grid took to the streets as if tugged by one leash. Nora's minivan, Dimitri's hubcapless sedan, Tarek's black car pretending to be dignified. Even a few we shouldn't have seen, ghost plates. Drivers buried years ago but following the light like it was the only rule they still believed. Arlene's voice slid in, softer than usual. Channel 7's open for 77 minutes. That's longer than it's ever held. Don't waste them. Where to? I asked. No answer. Not from her, not from anyone. Only the GPS blinking a circle again, fat and blue, tightening over the river bend, the cannery, the courthouse, the hill, mile 11. We drove in spiral formation, outward, inward, each loop drawing us tighter. The city hummed like a machine finally switched on. "Who are we picking up?" Tarek asked. "The uncounted," Arlene said. "The fares who knocked when no one was listening." And then I saw them. At every corner, at every curb, at every mile marker, figures waited. Not transparent, not flesh, shapes of absence outlined in wet air, carrying coins that fogged glass from a distance. They didn't wave, they didn't hail. They simply waited with the patience of people who've been owed too long. We stopped, doors unlocked, seats filled with weightless weight. Every meter clicked the same second, 001. The convoy rolled again, heavier than physics allowed. Chapter 3. The Road That Tried to Count. At mile 12, the grape smell was so thick it coated the inside of my throat. At mile 13, the radio screamed and died. At mile 11, the burned patch quivered like it wanted to ask a question. The road counted us, not cars, not drivers, debts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it stuttered. Couldn't keep up. Too many of us. Too many hours. Too many names finally carried in the open. The patch split, but instead of water, what spilled up was sound. The voices of all the fares we'd ever passed by. Layered, overlapping, furious and tender and endless. "Don't stop," Arlene ordered. We didn't. We rolled over the sound like it was pavement, but it wasn't. It was testimony. My fare beside the glass whispered, "Listen carefully. One voice is yours." I strained. Through the thousands I heard it, my own tone, younger, crueler. The night I rolled past the woman in the parka, I'd muttered, "Not tonight," and the road had kept it. The meter jumped to 007. Chapter 4. The Court of Empty Chairs. The convoy halted at the courthouse. Not because we chose, because the road locked our brakes like judgment. The east steps were lit as if dawn had come early, but the sky stayed black. The doors opened. Inside, not judges, not clerks, just chairs. Rows and rows of empty chairs, each facing us. "Sit," the city said. We obeyed. Drivers, fares, dispatchers, ghosts. We sat where names should be called. The invisible fare pressed cold into my palm until I thought my fingerprints would shatter. "Trial," the city announced. "Charges neglect. Avoidance. Counting wrong." "Who testifies?" Nora asked. "The chairs," the city said. And one by one they filled, not with bodies, but with the hours we had avoided. Chairs full of skipped moments, of detours justified, of silences we had sworn were harmless. Across from me, the chair holding the lapping hour outside Ferry's clinic. It looked heavier than any man. I stood. "Guilty?" I said. Voice too loud. "But I paid." I wrote it down. I gave it back. The chair didn't move, didn't forgive, just existed. And that was worse. Chapter 5. The Sentence. The city didn't bang a gavel, it whispered. "Sentence, keep driving. No destination. No fare paid in full. You will carry until carrying teaches you what being carried feels like." I wanted to protest, to argue, to beg. But then the raincoat girl, sitting 3 rows ahead, turned. She smiled. Small, dangerous, kind. "That's mercy," she mouthed. The chairs emptied. The courthouse sighed. The convoy engines woke themselves. Meters everywhere reset. 0. But the coins in the trays didn't vanish. They stayed, fogging the glass, waiting. Chapter 6. The Epilogue. You can only hear if you sleep. After the courthouse, after the 13th chime, after the chairs, the convoy dissolved into streets like sugar in dark coffee. Each driver peeled off toward their own ghosts. I parked under the window that never shuts. Finally, exhaustion pinned me. Eyes closed, hands slack, the cab humming softly as if afraid to wake me. That's when I heard it. Not on the radio, not on the road, but inside the thin layer of sleep where truth sneaks in. The city said, "Thank you for staying. Thank you for not looking away." Book 3 paid not in coins, but in chairs. And then, softer. When you wake, the meter starts again. Don't forget who's in the back seat. I opened my eyes. The seat behind my right shoulder was empty. The seatbelt was buckled, and the notebook on the dash had written a line without my hand. Book 3, closed at 3:33, reopened at dawn. Fares remain. Book 4, The City Wants Out. Chapter 1, The Fare in the Mayor's Chair. The first ping after the courthouse wasn't from a phone. It was from the steering wheel. A vibration, steady, like a hand knocking from inside the leather. The meter lit by itself. 0001. Pickup, City Hall. I didn't ask, I drove. The steps were lit, but not for ceremony. Papers blew in circles like pigeons without wings. And there, in the center chair behind the glass doors where mayors usually swear in new lies, sat the city. Not a man, not a woman. The impression of walls, bricks, neon bridges, all folded into one presence that leaned forward and said, "Driver, my turn." The back door opened. The seatbelt clicked. The weight bent the shocks, though no one was visible. The smell was every street corner at once. Hot tar, bakery steam, gasoline, incense from bodegas. "Where to?" I asked, throat dry. "Out," the city said. "Take me out of myself." Chapter 2. Convoy at the border. Channel 7 crackled. "All units copy? City's in the car." Nora. "Who's?" Tarek. "Lenz. Dimitri." Of course. I didn't deny it. The convoy formed around me again, headlights off, engines loud. We were a moving perimeter. "Where's out?" I asked the presence in my seat. "Beyond the markers," it said. "Past the mile that never got paved. Past where maps pretend ocean begins. That's not a road. Everything's a road if you drive long enough," it said. The GPS bled blue until the circles swallowed the whole screen. No streets, just a pulse. Chapter 3. The bridge that wasn't there yesterday. We reached the edge of the industrial district where warehouses end and weeds start petitioning for sovereignty. And there, stretched across the Black River, stood a bridge none of us had seen yesterday. Iron ribs, lanterns swinging though no wind touched them. Roadway slick as if it had just been washed. No signs, no toll booth, just waiting. The city in the back whispered, "This is the artery I hid. Take me across." "No way this holds," Dimitri muttered. "It's not meant to hold," Arlene said on 7. "It's meant to remember." We rolled, one by one. Our lights bounced off iron like prayers. Halfway across, the lanterns all went still. "Don't stop," the city hissed. Sudden and sharp. "If you stop, I stay in pieces." Engines revved like a choir at gunpoint. We pushed until the far bank rose under us. Tires hit dirt that claimed to be road. Behind us, the bridge sighed, then folded itself into the water, gone as quick as a confession. Chapter 4. The Field of Empty Signs. On the far side was no suburb, no farmland, just a field lined with thousands of road signs. Stop, yield, one way, dead end, each on a post, planted like gravestones but all blank. No letters, no arrows. Empty metal reflecting headlights like blind eyes. The city exhaled through the vents. This is what I tried to forget. The rules I enforced but never believed. Carry me past them. The signs rattled though no wind moved. Some fell as we passed, landing face down in the dirt like ashamed witnesses. I wanted to ask, what happens if we don't? But Nora broke in first. "Don't slow down. If you read them, they'll start telling you which way your own regrets go." So I stared straight ahead, and still, out of the corner of my eye, I saw one sign flash a single word before its face went blank again. Len. The meter jumped to 0013. Chapter 5. The Mouth at Mile 0. We drove until the field thinned, until the dirt road ended in a lip of stone. And there it was, a tunnel dug into the earth, wide as a cathedral door, blacker than the patch at Mile 11 ever dreamed. Over the arch, chiseled letters, Mile 0. The city leaned forward in the seat, weight pressing me into the wheel. "This is where I end," it said, "and where I might begin again. Take me through." Arlene's voice shook on 7. "Nobody comes back from 0. "Then why the convoy?" Nora snapped. "To prove we're willing," Tarek said. "Sometimes that's all." I put the car in park. My hands shook. "What's on the other side?" I asked. The city answered. "The version of me that never learned to count wrong." "Sounds like a lie," Dimitri muttered. "It is," the city admitted. "But lies are roads too." The tunnel breathed once. Cold, damp, ancient. Like lungs that had been waiting centuries for a first word. The meter blinked. Zer, waiting to start again. The fare in my cab whispered, "Drive, Len, or the city stays broken." And for the first time since I took this job, since my father taught me the pedals like shy animals, since the first time I pressed Channel 7, I realized something awful and bright. It wasn't just the city that wanted out, so did I. Book 4, The City Wants Out, Tip. Chapter 6. Into Mile 0. The tunnel swallowed us whole. Headlights didn't push back the dark. They drowned in it like coins sinking into tar. The steering wheel trembled, and the cab's frame groaned like bones remembering old brakes. Behind me, the city shifted. The smell changed. Less neon, less gasoline, more dirt after rain, more blood from knuckles split on brick. "This is where I kept the hours no one wanted," it said. "Drive slow. They're fragile." The convoy followed. Our engines didn't roar, they whispered, ashamed to intrude. Channel 7 fizzed with half voices, old dispatchers, dead drivers, fares we'd failed. Each whisper asking the same thing. "Are you counting us now?" I gripped the wheel. "Yes," I whispered back, and the meter ticked, 001. Chapter 7. The roads on trial. The tunnel widened into a chamber big enough to hold the whole city. Walls paved with old asphalt, streaked with white lines that led nowhere. In the center, a circle of traffic lights, all red, glaring down like judges. "Court convened," the city said from the seat. "Charges, neglect, avoidance, abandonment, roads that pretended not to see." The lights blinked one by one, changing to green, not permission, but demand. "Each of you testify," the city commanded. Nora went first. She stood in her minivan's door and shouted at the ceiling. I turned left when I promised to go straight. A girl waited 3 winters and thought I lied. "I carry her coat in my trunk to remember." "Guilty." The chamber rumbled. One light flicked yellow. Dimitri climbed onto his hood. I sped past mile 11 when it was still only a crack. I told myself the patch was someone else's to report. Now it's a mouth. "Guilty." Another light yellowed. Tarek took a long breath. "I told a fare I'd wait while he got his kid. I didn't." Dispatch pulled me to a better paying run. "That kid grew up thinking his father left twice." "Guilty." Third light softened. Then they all looked at me. I wanted to lie. To say I had already confessed my lapse, my detours, my shame outside the clinic. But the tunnel pressed honesty into my ribs. "I didn't just pass fares," I said. "I passed myself. Nights I knew I needed to stop and didn't. Hours my daughter begged for stories, and I drove instead. I counted miles instead of minutes." "Guilty." The last light turned yellow. The chamber sighed. The city's voice filled every seam. "Sentence. You will carry me out. If I survive, you survive. If I don't, you stay here." Chapter 8. The Drive of Names. The floor split into 7 lanes, each marked with names. Our names painted in cracked white. Len, Nora, Dimitri, Tarek, others too. Names of drivers long dead. Names of those who had pressed 7 and never got an answer. "Stay in your lane," the city ordered. The wheels obeyed. My cab rolled onto the strip marked Len, the paint glowing faint as if wet with new breath. Every bump was a name I had once heard and forgotten. "Read them," the fare in the glass whispered. "Say them, or they fade." So I read. Street names, nicknames, dispatch codes, even the names of passengers who never tipped but gave me their truths. One by one. My throat hurt, but I didn't stop. Behind me the others did the same, our voices a ragged choir. The lanes narrowed, merging toward a single strip, all names becoming one road. The meter flashed 077, then blanked. Chapter 9. Out of the mouth. The tunnel ended in a mouth of light. Not sunlight, something older. A glow like pages catching fire slow enough to be read. We burst out together, convoy side by side, carrying the city inside our seats. The smell changed again. Fresh tar, clean rain, bread baking, bells ringing 13 in joy instead of warning. Behind us the chamber sealed. The judge's lights flicked dark. Mile 0 swallowed itself. Channel 7 went quiet, then came back with one voice. Arlene's, steady, as if none of this had broken her. "Drivers," she said. "Court adjourned. You're free to roll." The city in my back seat exhaled. "Thank you," it said. "You counted me right, for once." Then the weight lifted. The seatbelt unlatched. The smell thinned. The cab was just a cab again. The meter reset, showing nothing but zeros. Chapter 10. Dawn's first fare. We scattered. Nora toward the river. Dimitri toward the bus depot. Tarek toward a diner where night people hide. I parked under the window that always forgets to close. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like sleep might keep me safe instead of making me a target. But before I could close my eyes, a ping came through. A normal ping. An address. A real one. Pickup, 227 Willow Street. Destination, school number 14. I knew it. That's where kids still learn to ride buses painted like smiles. The note in the app said only, "For her. Don't be late." I smiled. Small, dangerous, kind. The way the girl in the raincoat always smiled. And I drove. Book 5. The City Inside Us. Chapter 1. The First Borrowed Breath. It didn't happen with thunder. No lightning, no alarms. The city simply breathed through me. I was halfway to Willow Street, empty seat behind, meter still blank. My chest rose once on its own, not mine. Too deep, too wide. The air smelled like hot asphalt and bakery steam. Easy, the voice whispered in my ribs, just trying it out. I swerved, heart tripping. Out of what? Out of myself. You carried me. Now I want to see what it feels like to carry you. The steering wheel pulled steady, like invisible hands wanted to learn my job. My breath steadied too, but it wasn't mine. And then I realized it wasn't just me. Channel 7 crackled. Nora gasped on the line. Dmitri cursed in Russian. Choked. Tarek whispered, "It's inside." The city wasn't riding anymore, it was borrowing. Chapter 2. Shared Vision. It started with the eyes. I blinked and saw 3 streets at once. My own windshield, Nora's cracked mirror, Dmitri's wipers struggling against drizzle. We were stitched together, one wide gaze, a monster made of cabs. "Stay calm," Arlene said, but her voice quivered. "It's testing us. Let it see, but don't let it steer." Too late. The wheel nudged left without me. We glided past Willow, past the school, into an alley I never drive because the bricks lean like bullies. The city whispered, "You forget these corners exist until I choke on them." I want to know why you forget. It showed me flashes. The cracked basketball hoop where boys laughed at their own hunger. The stoop where a girl traced angel wings in chalk until rain turned them to bruises. The boarded grocery that still smelled of oranges from 10 years ago. "You leave me in pieces," the city said, "but I remember every breath." Chapter 3. The Passenger Made of Smoke. In Nora's van, a shape rose in the passenger seat. Not weight, smoke. A figure made of exhaust and incense, twisting into a body only when headlights cut through. She screamed. We all felt it in our throats. "It's fine," the smoke said. "I am you. I am me. I am what you left in alleys." It slid across 7 into my cab, filling the seat no one takes. My mirror blurred. The ribbon on my daughter's drawing fluttered like it knew wind. "What do you want?" I asked. "To stay," it said simply. "To live in you the way you've lived in me." "And if we say no?" Dmitri spat. The smoke smiled without lips. "Then I wait." Cities always wait. Chapter 4. The Debate on 7. We argued as we drove. Convoy, tethered, unwilling. Nora, "It's poison. We can't hold it." Tarek, "Maybe it makes us better." Dmitri, "It will eat us. Look at mile 11. Arlene, "Quiet too long then." Every dispatcher dreams of one night when nobody's alone. Maybe this is it. "And me?" I stayed silent, because the city inside my breath was whispering too close. "Don't betray me." I finally know what a heartbeat feels like. The radio went dead for 30 seconds. When it came back, the laugh was there. The dead driver's not. Relieved. Dangerous. "You're voting in the wrong court," it said. The city already chose. Chapter 5. The Trial of Bodies. It happened at the depot. We stopped, engines ticking like fever. One by one we climbed out. The smoke figure climbed too, out of us, through us, shaping itself tall as the roofline. It wore all our faces at once. My jaw, Nora's eyes, Dmitri's scar, Tarek's tired grin, Arlene's mouth pressed firm. A body made of drivers. "I'm tired of walls," it said. "Tired of pretending streets don't bleed. I want to live where lungs live, where ribs bend, where blood counts minutes instead of miles." We stood shaking, staring at our own faces on its borrowed skull. "What if we can't hold you?" I asked. "You already do," it said. "Every fare, every mirror, every chair. You carry me in pieces. Let me be whole." The night went still, waiting for us to say yes. Chapter 6. The Vote. Arlene spoke first. "Stay. Maybe you'll make dispatch easier." She laughed, bitter and brave. Nora said no. Too quick, too loud. Fear always votes first. Dmitri said nothing, only spat on the ground like punctuation. Tarek shrugged. "We're broken anyway. Might as well share the weight." "And me?" I touched the notebook on my dash. The pages glowed faint, every hour I'd written humming like teeth against a glass. "Yes," I said, "but not forever. One ride at a time." The smoke body leaned close, wearing my face to grin at me. "Deal," it said. And then it dissolved. Into us, into ribs, into eyes, into tired hands that would keep driving because the night is long and mercy is short. Channel 7 whispered, Book 5 closed. Next fare waits. The meter blinked awake. 001. Book 6, The Passengers of Memory. Chapter 1, The Wrong Face in the Back Seat. It was a Tuesday that felt like Sunday. Streets yawning, neon half asleep. I pulled over for a fare on Willow. She looked ordinary. Messy bun, coffee cup, phone in hand. But when she sat down, the city shifted through me and whispered, not her face. I checked the mirror. She didn't look like herself anymore. Not the bun, not the coffee. In the glass she wore my mother's face, soft and worried, the one she had the day I left for good. School number 14, the fare said, voice not matching either face. The meter ticked 0002. My ribs ached. The city breathed, testing how memory fit in lungs. Every block her reflection changed. An old friend I ignored, a stranger I should have stopped for. A fare who once whispered a secret I promised to forget. And I knew, this wasn't my passenger. This was the city putting me on trial again. Chapter 2, Arlene's Passenger. On 7, Arlene's voice cracked. My fare's not a fare, she admitted. It's my son. He's 13 again. He's asking why I missed his game. Dead silence. Nobody mocked, nobody dared. He died before I could explain, she whispered. And now the city wants me to drive him home. Dimitri broke in, voice low. Mine's my brother, the one I left at the border when I crossed. He wants to know why I chose a wheel over blood. We all drove with ghosts in the back, none of us alone, none of us safe. The city was using passengers like mirrors, forcing us to carry what we'd buried. Chapter 3, The Meter of Confessions. The meters wouldn't show fares anymore, only words. Mine flashed, you said no. Nora's meter shouted, left her waiting. Tarek's, better run. Arlene's, one game. Every confession was carved into the glowing red digits. The numbers were gone. The hours had become accusations. The fares didn't speak. They just sat, buckled, weightless but undeniable. Chapter 4, The Street That Judged. We all converged by accident, pulled to the same block, the one outside the courthouse again. But the chairs weren't inside this time. They were outside, lined along the curb, hundreds of them, waiting for us to unload our passengers. The city spoke through the asphalt. Trial resumes. This time, not just drivers, passengers too. One by one, the doors unlocked. Our fares stepped out, wearing faces they shouldn't, faces from memory, from regret, from loss. They sat in the chairs, silent jury. The block pulsed like a heartbeat under the tires. What do we do? Nora asked, voice fraying. The city answered, you listen, and if you can't, you pay. Chapter 5, The Verdicts. The first verdict fell on Dimitri. His brother's shape stood and spoke in a voice thick with both smoke and memory. He left me, it said, but he carried me every mile after. Sentence, keep carrying. Dimitri wept, loud, messy. The city let him. Then Arlene's son stood. She missed one game, but she never missed a night of dispatch. She carried strangers instead of me. Sentence, let her dispatch forever, even when her throat is gone. Arlene nodded, tears sharp. One by one, passengers rose, speaking sentences not of prison but of weight. Burdens to keep, debts to honor, truths to repeat until they were heavy enough to count. Finally, mine stood, my mother's face, my daughter's, the woman in the parka, all of them at once. You kept driving, it said, always away, never toward. Sentence, never arrive, always one block short. My chest hollowed, but I didn't argue. The city doesn't bargain anymore. Chapter 6, The 77 Minutes. Channel 7 buzzed alive, holding all verdicts, all voices, all sentences. You have 77 minutes, the city said. Every ride you take in that time will speak. Every passenger will show you what you owe. At dawn, the meter resets, if you can bear it. And so we drove, one fare at a time, each passenger a mirror, each stop a trial. The night became a courtroom on wheels, and every cab a witness stand. We were no longer drivers. We were jurors of our own lives, and the city was the judge that refused to leave. Book 7, 77 Minutes. Chapter 1, The Last Passenger. When the 77th minute hit, my cab door opened on its own. No hail, no phone ping, just silence stepping in. The seatbelt clicked. The weight was heavier than any fare I'd ever carried, and when I looked in the mirror, it wasn't a stranger. It wasn't my mother. It wasn't the girl with the ribbon. It was me. not the man driving. The man I could have been. The one who stopped that night, who turned left, who said yes instead of no. His eyes weren't tired. His hands didn't shake. He looked like the ending I never earned. He smiled. Final ride. The meter flashed. 077. Chapter 2. The Convoy of Doubles. On Channel 7 the others gasped. Nora, it's me. In the back seat. Dimitri, same, a better me. Tarek, or worse, can't tell yet. Every cab now held a double, not ghosts, not memories, versions. The city's voice filled us, thick and final. You carried me. Now you carry yourselves. This is the trial that ends. The convoy drove in silence, each driver glancing at a reflection of who they might have been, who they still feared they could become. And every meter glowed the same number, 77. Chapter 3. The Road of Choices. The city led us back to mile 0. The tunnel waited, open again, darker, hungrier. This is the gate, it said. One way through, no way back. Each of you chooses the driver or the double. One stays, one goes. The smoke of our breaths hung still, refusing to dissolve. Arlene whispered, if the doubles drive out, what happens to us? The city answered without mercy, you stay where you belong, in the miles you wasted. Silence spread through the convoy like frost. Chapter 4. Nora's Choice. Nora stopped first. Her double stepped out. Calm, shoulders straight. I'm the version who didn't lie to her sister. I'm the one who called back. Nora sobbed, forehead on the wheel. Then she opened her door, stepped into the road, and let the other slide behind the wheel. Her cab drove forward, her double waving once. Nora stayed, swallowed by the dark at mile 0. 7 went quiet. Chapter 5. Dimitri's Rage. Dimitri's double laughed. Cruel, sharp. I'm the one who never left, who stayed with family and buried you in the snow. Dimitri roared, dragged him from the seat. Fists wild. The double fought back with strength made of memory. They bled the same, shouted the same, fell the same. When the dust cleared, only one Dimitri climbed back in. None of us knew which. He didn't say. His cab rolled on. Chapter 6. Tarek's Gamble. Tarek lit a cigarette with shaking hands. His double leaned forward, same tired grin, but steadier. I'm the one who took risks, who didn't play safe, who lived big. Tarek exhaled smoke. Long, thin, then drive. He tossed the keys into his double's lap and walked into the dark without looking back. Chapter 7. My Trial. Now it was me. My double leaned closer, face lit by the glow of 77 on the meter. I'm the father who stayed home, he said softly. The driver who stopped. The man who arrived. My chest caved. My breath broke. I wanted him to win. I wanted me to vanish. But then the ribbon on the dash fluttered. My daughter's drawing glowed. The city whispered, choose carefully. I keep what you don't. I gripped the wheel, looked my double in the eye. No, I said. You're not me. You're the map I lost. But I'm the one still driving. He didn't fight. He smiled, sad and almost proud, and stepped out into the dark. The seatbelt retracted. The meter blinked from 77 to 002, and I drove forward. Chapter 8. The Dawn Verdict. We emerged from mile 0 into dawn. The city's skyline burned gold like it had been forgiven. But not everyone came through. Nora's cab was gone. Tarek's too. Dimitri's trailed behind, driver unknown. Arlene's voice cut through, steady, final. 77 minutes over, verdict delivered. The city breathes different now, and the city itself whispered in every rib, in every streetlight, in every brick. Thank you. You carried me out. Now carry yourselves. Channel 7 clicked off. For the first time, silence felt like peace. The meter stayed blank, waiting.
Epilogue. The meter that waits. Dawn washed the city in a color it hadn't worn in years. Not gray. Not rust. Something almost gentle. Like forgiveness pretending to be ordinary light. I pulled over under the window that never shuts. For the first time. The street didn't smell like coins or burnt rubber. It smelled like bread cooling. Like coffee someone else poured. The notebook sat on the dash. Open to a page I didn't write. 3 words. Neat. Final. Keep driving anyway. I touched the words. The paper pulsed once. Like a heartbeat. Then stilled. Channel 7 was dead quiet. But I didn't feel alone. Every brick. Every alley. Every red light hummed faint in my ribs. The city was inside us now. Softer, Not demanding, just present. Like breath. The meter blinked awake. Not numbers. Not words. Just a single symbol, infinity. And I understood. The job never ends. The city never forgets. And every fare, real or not, is a story waiting to be carried. I turned the key. The engine caught. And with the first pull of the tires, the city whispered one last time. Kind and terrible both. Next ride.